Every now and then I see something on social media that inspires me to shoot a video. Today, we're going to send a shout out to the road crews out there, the people who work hard every day. And look, it's easy to forget about these guys because they're not in the spotlight. They're not the people that you see on stage, right? What people largely see is the stars going out there getting all the accolades, and that is largely what people see, right? But behind every great rock concert, behind every Broadway show, behind every theater production, behind every larger club gig or theater or any of those things is usually a great crew. If the show is great and the show sounds great and the instruments are in tune, everything looks good on stage, then largely that is a speaking on how great the crew is. Now, I've talked before on this channel about the whole Jane's Addiction thing and the fight that happened over a year ago. But I saw a post on social media recently that, put things in perspective, because while rock stars get to go out there and do rock star things or rock star the reality is what they do affects everybody in the organization. And so I saw this post yesterday and I want to read it to you. It's from Dan Cleary79. This was on Instagram. And it says, I'm making jokes about Jane's Addiction, but all kidding aside, a lot of people lost work because of what Perry Farrell did on stage. I know the focus of the lawsuit is the band members, but they had a world-class A-plus crew behind them every night who also lost 5 weeks of work and future tours. You know, the people in one-bedroom apartments with roommates. So if Perry and Eddie, who actually are incredibly generous people, want to play hardball with the band who lifted him up every night, they're also hurting their crew. I will always speak up for the people I work with. That's very well said. And I maybe I know Dan or maybe I don't. I'm not sure. But here's the deal, man. First of all, yes, when that tour collapsed, they lost 5 weeks of work. Well, people go, oh, that's just 5 weeks of work. But here's the deal. When you're out with other acts, right, you're unable to do those other opportunities that come in. Sometimes you turn down opportunities that are coming in because you go, well, I've still got 5 more weeks with Jane's Addiction, and I think they're taking good care of us. I think I'll stick with this tour. And so oftentimes you turn down situations because you're already on the road with somebody, or you don't get those calls because people, oh, no, we can't call him. He's out with Jane's Addiction right now. And so while rock stars get to go back to the hotel, rock stars can make decisions. Rock stars can make rockstar decisions to, hey, I think I'll have a bunch of drinks before the show, or I'll have a bunch of drinks after the show, or maybe I'll do a little of this, or maybe I'll do a little of that. And all of those things can affect their performance. And no matter how good a crew isn't able to go out there and play the show for you when you're not able to bring it. Now, in some rare circumstances, there have been crew guys on tours who have found themselves all of a sudden in the hot seat on stage, playing drums or, playing guitar. And I've heard of this even in the country world. I've heard of guys having to step in. It would be a wise thing if you are a crew member. Say you're, the guitar tech, right? It would be wise, and if you're able to do it, and if you can play, you may want to learn the songs that your rock star is out there playing each night, in case he does rock star stuff and isn't able to make the show, or is accidentally injured by a rabid groupie, or any number of things that can happen on the road. As a roadie, you could find yourself on stage. Now, that doesn't always happen, and not all roadies are able to just seamlessly slide into somebody's slot. Sometimes they don't have the image. Sometimes they're, maybe a different age bracket or whatever. But man, that kind of thing does happen. But the rock stars start taking advantage of being able to do rock star stuff, right? Getting in fisticuffs on stage, one could argue, is rock star stuff. Drinking too much during, before, or after a performance, that is considered rock star stuff. But what happens is you're affecting the kind of people that, as he says in this, that live in one-bedroom apartments with roommates. These guys are not living, in mansions. You don't see, these kinds of shows, MTV Cribs, and they're showing roadies' houses. Largely, these guys don't end up, making that kind of money. They don't make that lottery rock star money often. So, there may be rare cases where that happens, but these are guys that are having to work day in, day out. The rock star may get to take a year off. The rock star may get to take a month off, or 2 months, or 6 months, or 10 years off, depending on how many writing credits they have, how much money they have stocked up in the bank. And if they haven't pissed it all away, they may be able to take a break. But these roadies, these crew members, they're going to have to, as soon as one tour ends, they're quickly looking for another one. And they may be jumping from one fire into another fire. You could be in a very volatile touring environment of one type, maybe like the Jane's Addiction thing, where there's fights on stage and one guy, deep in his cups. And then you may move into another situation where there's other types of volatility. People that, show up late for performances. People that may not get along in a different way, or may have other substance issues. So they could be jumping from one fire into another, it's a very volatile business with irrational and erratic people, oftentimes at the helm. And here's the deal. As a crew guy, you hear stories, but, you can be gone just like that. And so, and these are not people that can afford to get canned, right? And, I would say Sidemen, there's a difference between a band member like a Dave Navarro, in Jane's Addiction, and somebody that's playing guitar for a country artist like, say, Kane Brown or somebody like that. A sideman is usually paid a sideman salary, and that is often per show. It's not always per show. He could be put on salary, and then if they're put on salary, they will try to jam as many gigs as they can a week because they've got you on that salary, and now their job is to keep you out there working as much as possible. If they put you on salary, then doing radio during the day, doing a midday TV show in a small market, playing the show, doing meet and greets after, whatever the artist may want you to do, you're now on salary and they own you, right? But here's the deal. A sideman and a band member in a group where they share the profits are two entirely different things. The sideman is actually closer to the crew member in that they are hired and they can be gone at a moment's notice. If a band member of, say, Jane's Addiction, who owns a piece of it, all of a sudden they want to be terminated, well, then you're going to see the lawsuits. But these crew guys work incredibly hard, insane amounts of hours, often not getting enough sleep, and they are not given any leeway for mistakes or rock star behavior. If a crew member gets in fisticuffs, he's instantly gone. If a crew member gets too deep in their cups and people start noticing it, well, then he's going to be gone. And they are not allowed rock star behavior, even though they're existing in a rock star world. And again, these are guys that many are living in one-bedroom apartments with roommates, and they may be living in places like Nashville or Los Angeles, where the rent is very, very high. So these guys are living by the seats of their pants. And the reality is they're also constantly on edge. Now, when a crew member gets in a good camp, and that's what they call it, oh, I'm with the so-and-so camp, I'm with the Rolling Stones camp, I'm with, Eric Church camp or whatever. When they get in a good camp where they're taken care of, and there's not a lot of volatility, and it's very professionally run, and the gigs are high quality, and everything is up to par, then a crew member is going to do everything he can to please the artist, to please the tour manager, and all that, so that he can stay in this stable position and ride it out as long as he can. And at any point in time, though, the star or the band could decide, we're going to shut it down for a while. We're wiped out. We're tired. We're burnt out. We need to write a new album, and we're going to take a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, or we're going to shut it down permanently, like some of these older artists that are doing now. And that is the tough thing about being a crew member. You're at the will and whims of rock stars. You're at the will and whims of the performers. And if they choose to shut it down, that's it. That's all there is. And you're now left, with nothing on the calendar, nothing on the books. And you have to hope that the networking that you did and the friends that you made along the way, that you can reach out to them and find yourself another position. And that's not guaranteed, And that's never easy. But for guys that are out on the road, and that's the lifestyle they're used to living, it is seemingly the one thing that they want to do. It's like the scene in Apocalypse Now. I know I've talked about this, but he's sitting there in bed, staring at the ceiling fan and waiting on another mission. And that is the reality of this. Once you taste that whirlwind of life on the road, and deep inside you truly love it, it's, going and working at the local Home Depot. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that can seem like a step down in the excitement world. So once you've had a taste of that life, it sticks with you, man. You never forget that camaraderie you had, that near, close to stardom, the taste of the bright lights, even if you're not on stage. It can be very addicting. But don't forget, if you're doing that, you're living by the seat of your pants, and it can all erupt and fall apart at any point in time.